Good Monday morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Cheryl Texera, and my mission is to teach or level the playing field for entrepreneurs like you by teaching you project management skills and the framework of Scrum so that you can create a sustainable productivity system and manage projects like IT shops all over the world so you can finally implement all of those amazing ideas and reach your goals. So today I'm going to talk about how to leverage time blocks to prevent overwhelm. And be sure to say hello when you come on, okay? I want to see you. I want to say hi. I want to see you. I want to make sure I'm live. I'm going to just refresh my page here and make sure I'm live. All right, here I am. Okay, be sure to say hello when you come on. All right, so as I said, I am all about project management and I want to level that playing field for you because IT shops all over the world are using this framework called Scrum, and it is a really nice lightweight system that's full of accountability and all kinds of things that help you manage the overwhelm and stop having to, work to the last second and work overtime and do all these crazy things that we do to ourselves because we have no system of productivity. And so I'm here to teach you about productivity system. And today we're going to talk about how to leverage time blocks to prevent overwhelm. So what are time blocks? So time blocks are something that I actually kind of created, and I'm sure you've heard the term before, but I don't know if you've heard it my way. So my system is there's four different time blocks. There's green time, yellow time, red time, and blackout time. Now, the blackout time, and all of this is pertaining to only your office hours, right? So you're really trying to identify your office hours by using these time blocks. So blackout time is time when you absolutely cannot work on your business. That's what blackout time is. So you don't have to get into, managing your time down to the micro of doing dishes or things like that. Just when you're not going to be working, I want you to black that time out of your calendar. And then we have red time, which red time is really that time when you normally wouldn't work, but maybe you're able to steal in a few hours of time or a few minutes of time or something, like maybe checking your social media or something while you're cooking dinner, or knocking out a little 15-minute something while dinner's cooking in the oven, something like that, right? And then green and yellow time are really your office hours. And I want you to think about that as truly your office hours. So green is that uninterrupted time when you can, really focus all of your energy, everything. That would be a time when you might do a blog post, or if you're writing a book, you could sit down and write a chapter of your book or whatever. And the yellow time is the time when you might be interrupted. Maybe you have family around, they're all hanging out, you're sitting out in the living room where you might be interrupted. And that's the time when you want to actually be focusing more on things that, like maybe creating images or anything like that that could actually help you. You could still get stuff done, but if you get interrupted, it's not going to completely derail you from what you're doing. Good morning, Facebook user. I can't tell who it is. Good morning, you guys. Okay, so now that we're looking at these time blocks, right? You have green time, uninterrupted time, yellow time, you might have interruptions, and red time when, you probably wouldn't normally be working, but maybe you were able to steal a few minutes of time to work on your business. And then the blackout time, that is like non-negotiable. time when you will not work on your business, like sleep time, time when you're sitting down with your family, that kind of thing, okay? So that's what a time block is. And so now we're going to really look at sprint planning, because today is sprint planning day. And if you're following the sprint schedule, you can get it. You can get the sprint schedule for free out of my shop. It is the Scrum Boss, thescrumboss.com. And sorry, I have some loose hairs here. Thescrumboss.com/shop. You can go there. The 2021 schedule is there for the sprints, because we work in 2-week increments. That's what a sprint is, right? We work in small increments of time, 2 to 4 weeks. And we choose 2 weeks because I just think 4 weeks is too big. We add too many things to our list, and then we don't get things accomplished as easily as we do in a 2-week framework. And so that's what our sprint is all about, right? Is really getting that focus on your time and just the next 2 weeks. So when you look at your backlog, right? What is your backlog? The backlog is all those things that you need to do, everything you've thought about so far to up to date of the things that you need to do. And every sprint, at the beginning, we have a sprint planning day, and that's what today is, our sprint planning day. So we're going to take maybe, an hour, half an hour, something like that, to look at your list, prioritize that list, and then pull in the things that need to be done. And so the whole process of sprint planning should go something like this. First, you're going to look at your desk time and your office hours, right? So you're going to look at you're going to look at your calendar, look at all the appointments that you have, and determine when you have actual desk time. And once you figure out when you have desk time during the next 2 weeks, then I want you to look at the quality of that time. When is it green? When is it yellow? When could you maybe squeak out some red time? Remember, no blackout time. That is your time that is for you and for self-care, for family care, for all those things, right? So now when you have your desk time, now you want to determine that quality of time, green time, yellow time, whatever time that might be. So if everybody's gone for an hour, you're going to have a good hour of green time, right? And so that's a perfect time for you to turn off your phone, put it away, move it away from you, something like that, and give yourself 1 hour, just 1 hour of time that you can completely focus. And here's the thing, you guys, when you spend the time planning your sprint on sprint planning day, instead of each and every morning planning what you're going to do, you're going to spend less time planning and more time implementing. So it's really important that you kind of get this rhythm where you look at all the things that you're going to do for the sprint, and then that's it. All the other stuff is on the backlog. You aren't even thinking about it. You're going to be completely focused on what you're going to do in the next 2 weeks, and that is it. And from that, you're going to start prioritizing by must have, should have, could have, and won't have at this time, right? You're going to prioritize those things, because that's how we can eliminate some of the fluff that we love to have and we want to have. But if we get into trouble at the end of our sprint, we're running out of time. Those are the things that we could just say, oh, we're going to just wait until the next time, the next iteration, and then we'll go ahead and add that thing. Or it might be something that's just not as important, and later on you find it's not important at all, right? Okay, so when you start planning your sprint, I want you to really start categorizing all of the things in your sprint. And if you're really doing your due diligence in Scrum Life, you maybe have already categorized your backlog. Your backlog should be categorized, and your sprints should be categorized in projects, in your daily, weekly, monthly type tasks, those kinds of things. So recurring tasks and things that you need to improve upon. That's the continuous improvement, right? And remember, we always talk about in Scrum, we always talk about the maturity model, right? And so with every sprint, you're getting more mature in your processes, you're getting better. and you're getting more skilled at managing your workload. And so if you keep practicing, you're going to get better and better and better and move along the maturity model. But continuous improvement can also be applied to things like your daily, weekly, and monthly tasks, right? You can start creating, cheat sheets and templates and workflows and repeatable processes so that you don't have to think about what exactly you're doing. You just do, right? And you just do, because sometimes when we start thinking about things too much, we overanalyze, we get in that analysis paralysis thing, right? And then we just struggle to keep ourselves on track. Okay, so you've categorized these things, and now within those categories, you can start prioritizing. So think about your project. What project are you currently working on? If you're working on a project that's going to take just this one sprint, you still want to prioritize by must have, should have, could have, and won't have at this time, because there's a possibility you could run out of time at the end of your sprint if you didn't properly estimate, if something comes up, that kind of thing, right? And so definitely be prioritizing everything in your project. And then you can prioritize your daily, weekly, monthly type tasks that by then it would become by the due date, or by if there's no due date within the sprint, by what can you knock out fastest, or based on your quality of time. If you have something on your daily, weekly, monthly task like writing a blog post, you need some good quality time, green time, so that you can stay completely focused on what you're going to do. You don't let those distractions in, and you really focus on knocking that thing out. Because the thing is that, yes, you might be able to deal with, the notifications on your phone and all those things while you're writing a blog post. But if you get all that stuff out of your world for just that 1 hour, you might actually increase your velocity in terms of how quickly you can get something done, right? The velocity, that's a big thing in Scrum, is we drive a spike and then we keep we keep repeating, and we increase the velocity on what we're doing. So think about those daily, weekly, monthly tasks and how you can increase the velocity of completing those tasks each and every week, because when you complete your daily, weekly, monthly tasks quicker, you have more time for projects. And what do projects do? Projects move the needle on your business more forward than anything else. The daily, weekly, monthly tasks are going to kind of keep you in the status quo. Projects are what make your business go to the next level. Okay, so once you have those things prioritized in all three categories, projects, what are your priorities? Your daily, weekly, monthly tasks, what are those priorities? And continuous improvement. I just pick one thing. Pick one thing this sprint that you're going to improve on so that it's better the next sprint for you, okay? So just pick one thing. Now we're going to determine the quality of time that is required for those particular things. So you might have a blog post you're going to write, or a chapter of a book you're going to write. That requires green time, right? So now you're going to start matching things up. Now, if you think about this, if you have more things on your list that require green time than you have green time blocks, you might need to start thinking about how you prioritize those things, move some of those green time things out, or figure out a way to get more green time into your schedule, right? Because yellow time may not cut it. It might, but you might need to allot for more yellow time than you would green time if you are going to try to use yellow time to, say, write a chapter of your book. Right? Right? Do you hear me? I don't know. Give me some fire. Give me something so I know. All right. So that's where the next step is. You determine the quality of time required for each one of these items. Okay, And then I want you to take some time to try to estimate how long things take, because that can be a real, it can snag you up, right? You think something's only going to take you like 2 hours. It ends up taking you 10 hours or something like that. Like, that can really be a problem, right? So I want you to look at each and everything and think about how long it's going to take. So here's how I do it. I look at it and I think, is it going to take me more or less than an hour? If it's going to take me less than an hour, then I think, well, would it just take me like 15 minutes? Because if it's only going to take me 15 minutes, I'm going to label that thing as a 15-minute task. And here's why. Because I might pop something in the oven that's going to take 15, 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever. I could sit down and, knock out something on my list for 15 minutes. I might be waiting somewhere, waiting for something to happen, so my kid to do a task. Maybe I'm homeschooling my kid. I don't have kids in school anymore, but if you do, you might be homeschooling your kid and he's working on a test or something where you have some time, right? You have 15 minutes and you can knock out a 15-minute task. So label those things as a 15-minute task so you know. Because here's the thing is, what I've found is if I label those things 15 minutes, then if I have that 15 minutes, I don't sit down and go, oh, what should I do? And spend the whole 15 minutes trying to figure out what to do. I actually know what to do, and I can just grab that one thing and get it done, right? So that's a really awesome way to leverage small pockets of time. If you leverage those small pockets of time, 2, 3, 4 times a day, you could have up to an extra hour of work done each and every day if you do that. So think about planning up front, not in real time. Plan up front, plan today, and then you have your sprint pretty much scheduled out. And I'm not saying to schedule out each and every day what you're going to do each day, because that is confining and that can actually make us more anxious, right? If you're scheduling out like, today I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and you don't get one of those things done, now it's into the next day and you've already scheduled that day out. I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and oh great, now I still have to do that thing because I didn't finish it. And then the next day you have 2 things you didn't finish, and 3 things, and 4 things, and pretty soon you give up, right? So I don't want you to do that to yourself. Don't schedule out your days. That's the beauty of a sprint, is you have a collection of things that you need to do during this sprint, and it really doesn't matter when you do those things. You just need to do them, right? And so that kind of gives you that freedom to not only look at your quality of time that you happen to have in front of you, but how you're feeling. I mean, maybe you do have a green block day, but you have a splitting headache today and you aren't going to be able to get those things done. So you can look at the other things that you can get done. Well, maybe, if it's not so bad that you can't, that you just completely can't work, then maybe it's a time when you can knock out a bunch of those 15-minute tasks and just kind of work in 15-minute increments to help yourself knock some things out and not completely lose that time. Okay. All right. So then now back to estimates. If you are looking at estimates and things take longer than 1 hour, then now I want you to ask yourself, is it going to take me longer than 2 hours? Is it going to take me longer than 3? And if you're not sure, then I want you to start thinking about other things that you've done that took you like 2 hours, other things you've done that took 4 hours, other things that you did that ended up taking you 10 hours that you thought was only going to take 2 hours. And that's how you can start improving at estimating. Now, I want you to know that estimating is one of the most difficult tasks that we have in IT. And a lot of times it's because developers tend to have to do the estimates, right? They got to look at the work and figure out what it is and all that stuff. But we tend to underestimate the complexity of things and how long things take. And so it's really important that you really try to break things down if you don't know how long something is going to take. Try to break it down into things that you know how long it's going to take, right? So writing copy, like say you have to do your about page and you're writing your about copy, that might take you a little while because you're going to have to research, look at what other people are doing, and look at other people's about page, and maybe do a little research on the framework of what your about you section should be, all those things. Well, you could break that up into a bunch of tasks, right? Researching the framework, researching to find other examples that you like, and then taking like making a basic outline and then writing the final copy. And so you can see how you can break that down into smaller tasks so that you can get that done. And just going through that process might actually help you, um, help you not only to estimate how long, but to determine if it's a necessary step or not. Okay, so keep looking at those estimates, and I'm telling you, it's going to take a while to get good at estimating. It just does. It just takes a little bit of time, and so just give yourself some grace, and don't book your sprints more than like 75% of your time, because that time will get filled up by obstacles, by underestimating things, all that kind of stuff, right? And possible things that just came up that you couldn't prevent, right? A headache or whatever. Okay, so give yourself some grace, but keep trying and keep working on those estimates. Now there are some tools. You can download an app. It's called Worklog. There's probably tons of different ones out there where you can actually punch in and punch out when you're doing a task. Perfect for anybody who's doing client work, where you're punching in and out so you can track how much time things take you for billing purposes. But this is a great way for you to check on yourself to see if your estimate was accurate, so that you can keep improving on your accuracy. Okay, so let me just take a look at my notes. Okay, so the one last thing I wanted to talk about time blocks is the time blocks should only add up to like 24 hours, right? So if you're looking at one day, that's what I want you to look at, is what does your typical day look like in terms of time blocks? Now, if you have, like for me, I have a pretty consistent time block schedule. Like I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I have from 5 until I start my 9 to 5, and to get some work done. And it's usually just a couple of hours, 2-3 hours, something like that, where I can get some things done, and then I start my work day. And then I usually put in some time on the weekends in the morning, first thing before we start our day, like from 6 o'clock in the morning till like 10 or something, and then we go out hiking and do our thing, right? And so if you think about that, you probably have some sort of consistency in how your time blocks sort of settle in your life, right? But if you have a pretty sporadic schedule, then you may want to look at each and every day and just block out when you have those time blocks, and then color code those time blocks so that you know. And then if you're squeezing in like 20 hours of time for your business each and every week, you have a business. That's pretty good. If you're only doing like 10 hours, you probably need to either step it up or hire it out, right? Because 10 hours is pretty small. It's a pretty small amount of time to get all the things done that we need to get done for our businesses. Okay, so think about that. The other thing to think about is whether you're a morning person or a night person. I'm a morning person, clearly. I get up really early. And it works out really well because I'm on the West Coast. Well, not the West Coast, but I'm in the West, so I'm on Pacific time. And so everybody else, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning already for them, in the East. So it kind of works out for me in terms of my work day. But if you're a nighttime person, just admit it. Be a night person and get your work done at night, okay? So part of this process is really identifying what your limitations are, what your level of commitment is, and how you can leverage that time that you have to the best way possible. And that's why I really focus on time blocks. So every time you're doing a sprint and you're doing sprint planning, looking at your time blocks for the next 2 weeks is kind of important in terms of how you plan your sprint and all the things that you put in your sprint. Instead of just like throwing a ton of things in your sprint and hoping for the best, instead you're going to be a little bit more methodical, and that way you don't overbook yourself. It's much easier. It's much easier to pull in more items because you finished everything on your sprint than it is to have to eliminate things because you overbooked your sprint. Or worse, you end up doing all this overtime and stressing yourself out because you waited to the last minute or because you overbooked your sprint and you didn't get things done. So that leads me to one last thing is, you might want to try to work ahead as much as you possibly can. And there's some things you can work ahead on, and there's other things you can't. Like, for example, I couldn't go and schedule all of my live weekly shows in my StreamYard and then have them, booked out in my boss productivity group. I couldn't do that way ahead of time because it sends a notification to everybody, and I want everybody to get that notification that I scheduled a live show. And if I do it 3-4 months in advance, I just think that the timing would be weird and it wouldn't really work, and people, it just wouldn't work. And so I don't schedule those things until the week of, my next live, that few days before my next live or something like that. And so, but now I think, geez, maybe I should test that going okay, so we have a couple comments here. So yes, staying focused really makes a difference. And, I find like, geez, when I'm having a hard time focusing, it's usually because every 5 seconds I'm looking at my phone. I'm just letting myself be distracted. And when I put all those things away, it really, really helps. And one other tip that I have that I find is very helpful for me, because, I'm a lot like you guys. I'm probably worse. I'm a squirrel. and so, I have to do all these things myself. It's not like I'm, not practicing what I preach. I have to do these things. But one of the things that really helps me is when I'm going to work on something, I close all my browsers down and I start over. Because a lot of times you have your browsers up from something you were doing previously, and it becomes overwhelming, and it's also distracting, right? Then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, I need to do this, and oh, I should do this, and I need to do that. And so if you start doing that, write those things down on your backlog, and then close all your browsers down and start completely over. Only open the browsers you need to get the work done that you need to get done. So Anne says, I've never experienced getting things done before deadlines. And that could be a procrastination thing. That could be there. It could be all kinds of things, right? Because we do tend to work toward those deadlines. But here's the thing, Anne, and all of you, when you set arbitrary deadlines, you tend to not believe them anyway, and you don't really follow that schedule. That's why I say don't schedule out each and every day, because it becomes an arbitrary deadline. It's not a real deadline, and then you probably won't get all those things done. You'll blow it off, or you'll procrastinate, or you'll do something else. So that's why I like working in sprints, and it gives you that leeway and flexibility. That's what Scrum is all about, is flexibility, right? And sustainability. So it gives you all that so that you can relax enough to get things done, right? Because when our brains are stressed out, it is really, really difficult for us to get focused, because we're all stressing and overwhelmed, and we're all focused on the fact that we're overwhelmed, and we're all focused on the fact that we have so many things to do, instead of focusing in on the one thing that we need to get done. And that is the key, right? Is we try to set everything else aside. That's why we do prioritization by must have, should have, could have, won't have at this time. Notice there are no number one priorities, right? It's just must have, should have, could have, won't have at this time. You're going to focus on the must haves first, then the should haves, then the could haves across the board, right? Must haves for your project, must have for your daily, weekly, and monthly tasks, and must haves for your continuous improvement. And so the must have for the continuous improvement is the little bit of a gray area, right? Because really what you're trying to do there is free up more time for projects, right? So you want to get better and quicker at your day-to-day work so that you can work on projects. And that has been my goal. So like I create weekly live shows, right? So that's one of the things that I do. And so I have to create content each and every week. So my goal is that within 5 hours a week, or less, I can create not only my video, but the audio, we can pull the audio from it, and I create something in writing so that I can generate a blog post out of that. And so that is my goal. I do that. And my goal really is in 5 hours a week, I want to have a completed blog post that I can get to my VA, and then she can put it into my my blog. So I have a blog post every single week. I don't always get that. I don't always make that, but I give myself grace. And if I don't make it, here's the key. If I don't make it and I just have like a draft or an outline or something like that of my weekly live, and I never got it to a blog post, I put it in my backlog for times when maybe I will have more time. For example, I'm retiring from my 9 to 5 in July this year. Yay! And so then I may have more time to go back to that backlog and start looking at some of those things that I wanted to generate into a blog post. And I can start fleshing out my blog post. And a lot of the work is already done, right? I don't have to do as much work because I already did it. And so generating a blog post, I might be able to generate a new blog post from some of that older content and generate my new weekly content once a week once I'm retired, right? Right now, I can't do it. I don't have the bandwidth, and that's okay, because that's the beauty of it, is your schedule is going to really determine the pace at which you work, the pace at which your business grows, right? So either you do the work yourself or you hire it out, depending on your financial situation and all that stuff, right? So I want you to be thinking about that, is that if you can't make more time for yourself. You're not going to get more than 24 hours. And you really need to sleep 7 to 9, right? No, non-negotiable. You got to do that. You got to do self-care. You got to get exercise. I mean, these are things that we know we have to do, right? It's not something you just sacrifice each and every day because you have a business. You can't do that. And so what I'm trying to do, and what Scrum tries to do, is give you something that's sustainable. Because remember, the Scrum framework was invented because IT shops were burning out their employees. They were burning them out with so much overtime and like these intense deadlines that they were having high turnover, and they were losing all of their talent. Like they'd get done with a project and they'd lose all their talent, and people would leave, and all that knowledge of their systems and everything went with them. And so then they had to train somebody else, and it was just this terrible cycle that they were in. And so they really focused in on, we have to make this sustainable. No more overtime, no more burning out our employees. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to draw a line in the sand that you are not going to burn yourself out, that you're going to work on a schedule that is sustainable, And I'm not saying that you aren't going to put in extra time here and there. You just can't do it on a regular basis because you will burn out. Okay, so there's more comments here coming in. It totally is procrastination plus perfectionism. Yes, totally true. I don't believe my own deadlines. Yeah, you don't believe your own deadlines. That's crazy. I still need to conquer dividing what I need to do by using the must, should, could, and won't haves. Yes. And still suffering from shiny object syndrome. Oh gosh, I know it's so easy to do, right? But here's one way. Here's one way to combat shiny object syndrome. You're looking at all of your stuff now, right? You've learned a lot, right? You're at a phase now where you've learned a lot of stuff, right? You've taken a lot of $27 courses. You probably have a bunch of them sitting on your virtual shelf that aren't used or that you never finished, right? So here's some strategies for that. One, take all your courses, put them on a Trello board, put the outlines on a checklist of what actually is covered in each one of those courses, and make a checklist of it. And then every time you do one of those modules, just check it off so you kind of know what you've already done and what you haven't done, right? Put the location of where that course is so you can find it when you need it. Now, categorize those courses by the skill set that you need to learn, right? If it's a Facebook ads course or or Instagram, being awesome at Instagram, whatever, whatever, categorize it, right? And then when you need that skill, like if you're going to do a launch or something like that and you need Facebook ads, that's when you go look at that course, you determine how much time it's going to take you to go through that course, and then you put that in your schedule with your time that you're going to be building your Facebook ads, right? And so when you do that, it helps you to apply what you learn immediately so that you don't have to keep going back and relearning everything, right? You're applying what you learn, and then you go into a continuous improvement cycle. And because you've framed out your course and you know what's in there and you know what you've done, you can use it more like a reference library after the fact so that you can go back and review those one or two pieces or whatever, that you have. Another thing is knowing and identifying what your skill gaps are is really big. If you have a list of what your skill gaps are and you start looking at all the things that you're doing, now you know you have to fill the skill gap. So that keeps you more like, it's not a shiny object thing anymore, right? You're out there actively looking for something that's going to help you fill that skill gap. And so now you become a more scrutinizing consumer, right? Instead of just falling for a shiny object, you're actually being more active. When you look at, I'm this way now, like when I look at a course, I'm really truly looking at what it's going to provide for me, where I used to just like, oh yeah, this looks good. Now, no, I really scrutinize what exactly I'm going to get and if it's going to help me at that time. And so think about that when you're thinking about shiny objects and stuff. Like if you really just take that little bit of time to start organizing and assessing your own skill set, then you can start filling in the gaps, and you don't end up doing stupid things like I did in the past, which was buy the same course twice, 2 years apart, because I didn't remember that I bought that course because I was disorganized. And that's where I drew the line in the sand and said, no more, I'm not going to do that again. I don't want to spend more money on the same course, right? So anyway, I hope that helps. All right, so I hope this has helped you figure out how to use those time blocks. Time blocking is really an important step in your planning day. Today is planning for your sprint. The sprint goes through, starts today, ends on March 5th. And so if you really go back to that quick start guide that I've given you, that can help you start looking at the different Scrum events so that you can hold yourself accountable: the daily Scrum, the sprint review, the sprint retrospective, and sprint planning, the most important one, sprint planning. Then you plan. The rest of the time in that 2-week period, you do, right? You plan once, you do, instead of each and every day planning, okay? All right, so I hope that helps you. If you don't have the quick start guide, you can grab it from my shop. It's Well, you can just go to thescrumboss.com, and then once it redirects you to my site name, which is yourbusinesscreativeconnection.com, then /quick start, one word, you can find that quick start guide. So you can enroll if you don't have it already. Otherwise, it should be in your email. If you are already on my list, it would be the very first or second email that you received from me. So you can grab that quick start guide. If you still can't find it, DM me. I'll get it to you, and you can really start practicing your Scrum events, guys, because the Scrum events are going to be your lifesaver. They're going to be what you depend on all the time and what you can lean on when you're stressing out, right? It's what you lean on when you're stressing out, the framework and the structure, right? Structured time helps us be more productive, and you're creating a structure for yourself as an entrepreneur, but you're also creating a culture in your system that you're now a Scrum shop. So when you're ready to hire, when you think you're ready to hire, you already have a framework in place, and that can help set expectations for your people who are working for you so that they can get up and running quickly, and you don't waste a lot of your precious money on them just trying to figure out what the heck they're doing, right? So think long term, not the now. You're doing this for the long haul, You're building a career for yourself, no matter if it's the next 10 years, the next 30 years, I don't care what it is. This is not something that you're just doing for a little while to see if it flies. Nope. If you're doing that, you're in the wrong group. We're in this group to create a business, to create the foundation of our business, make it sustainable, and build the business of our dreams, whatever that dream is, whether it's a 5-figure income, a 7-figure income, that's completely up to you. It all boils down to good project management, and the framework of Scrum helps us manage our day-to-day. Okay? All right, you guys, so have an amazing week. I hope you have an amazing sprint. I hope this has helped you. And be sure to check out my podcast if you haven't checked it out. It's on SoundCloud. And I don't think I have it in here. Let me see if I have it in here. It's SoundCloud / the productivity, or not the productivity pod, just productivity pod. So you can find it there. Also, if you want to set an appointment with me to discuss your situation and your business and see what I have to offer to help you get going and build your framework faster, fast track you on that, then be sure to set an appointment with me. I'll be happy to sit down with you for an hour for free to figure out what it is that you need to do and how you can get things going for your business. All right. Okay, you guys. So we will see you in the comments. Bye.